night. I'm so excited. This is going to be a great show. I really hope, because there's a lot of cool people in the room tonight that are going to join me on the show. I cannot wait. Before we get started, though, I do have to go over the rules while I'm thinking of it, because if I don't, then I won't do it. So rule number 1 is that you are welcome to ask questions. And that is the point of the show. It's an education show. It's a learning show. We ask questions. We're skeptics and investigators and, maybe not skeptics, but we ask questions. That's what we do. Number 2 is that I don't know everything. That should be obvious to anyone that watches this show. It really should be obvious. I try a lot. I usually have homework. I even made a segment of what I learned last week, so I can update people on things that we didn't talk about last week because I didn't know about them. But this also applies to my guests. We don't know everything, but we will try and we will look it up. And if we can learn it together, we will. Rule number 3 is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule, and that's be nice. That's it. Be nice. You can be in the chat room. You can discuss things. You can debate. You can disagree, agree. That's cool. Just don't devolve into name calling and just basically don't be a dick. I mean, that's all I'm asking. I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think that's asking a lot. Just be nice about it. That's all. Rule number 4 is that if you have a question tonight, especially because it's a open mic night, panel discussion edition, if you have a question, please do us a favor, put a capital Q in front of it, because that helps us put it in the queue. Donna is not here today. She's not here tonight. She is somewhere in Philly, Pennsylvania, something like that. She's having a good time. And Tim is here with me. He's actually going to be on the show, not just behind the scenes, but he's going to be helping me out with the questions and comments and stuff like that in the chat room. So by putting a Q in front of it, that helps us out. And rule number 5 is my favorite of all time rule: drink up. Basically, that's it. This is a bar or a pub, depending on where you're from. So with that said, I am going to bring everyone on. Here we go. And we got an extra one. Hold up. There we go. We have a whole bunch of people tonight. So let me say hi to everyone. Oh, my God. There's a lot of people. Jade Kitten. Leonard's here. Leonard, what's up? Damn it, Bob's here. Entity 7 Paranormal. What's up, Joe? Diane, Dawn, Fantastic Published. There's a lot. Ian, Tom, John Guy is here. Diana, Kimberly. Wow, there's a lot. Cat Mac. That screws me up. I have to drink more to say her name correctly. But a lot of people are here. We got people from all different perspectives, backgrounds. They've all been on the show at least once. Some of them have been on the show like 30 freaking times or something like that, close to it. But anyway, so I'd like to go just around the table, do a real short. I know this is like the pain in the ass part of meetings when they're like, oh, everyone go around and introduce themselves. But give us a short introduction of everyone. Starting, I'm gonna start with Tim.
I do a show every month at the first Wednesday of every month with 2 people here on the show. We do some critical thinking and talk about ghost hunting and come up with ways to test claims. That's pretty fun.
Cool. Daniel, the Reed. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm the Reed.
Using the name, the name tag.
Yeah. I'm Daniel. I'm from West Virginia with Tim, and we're in the West Virginia Skeptics Society, and we just do all kinds of stuff, skeptical stuff. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell. Okay. Shane, what's up? Yeah, you.
Oh, me. Sorry. I'm Shane. I'm from Utah. I was part of a founder of a grassroots skeptics group, Beehive Skeptics. We do stuff and things.
We do stuff.
We started our own podcast. Look us up, Beehive Skeptics, on Spotify. It's more of a beginners. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but let's find out kind of podcast. And
that's how I started.
Yeah, right. And we just spend our days challenging people to test their claims. We tack on to the $500,000 challenge and offer our own challenge on top of that to fly people out to California if they pass a test with us.
Awesome. That's Melanie. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
How are you, kid?
What's up? Tell us about yourself, Mel.
I'm Melanie.
Hi, Mel.
So I'm from Thinking is Power, and yeah, that's me. I teach. I write.
You teach.
I talk about critical thinking, and look, once you open those floodgates, you know they're not going to stop. So I guess I'll hold it off for now.
Okay, cool. Dave.
Hello, Dave. Also do a show with Tim and Kenny, Three Tortured Souls. So been interested in paranormal stuff for a very long time. Started out as a ghost hunter like some of others on this show. Moved into I don't know what you call paranormal investigating, but now it's more research based. Pick specific projects and write papers once in a while, painful, long papers, and then have Tim run all the statistics for us.
That's right.
That's right. Didn't you just finish a paper on EMF meters or something like that?
You should know your name's on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. My bad. Adrienne. Hi, Giggles.
I was going to introduce myself as Giggles.
I'm sorry.
I should have put that in my name, right?
You should have.
In such a rush, I just started with Adrienne. It was very boring, but I'm glad I made it. So thanks for inviting me. And
You're welcome.
Who am I? Well, I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm the Canadian, the token Canadian. And I
International.
And you can I'm vicariously associated with Australia because I'm also on the Skeptic Zone podcast as reporter quite often. Awesome. And Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia editor. So I'm associated with Susan Gerbeck. And I also am on the board here in Calgary for the Tourette OCD Alberta Network. So that's another one of my little specialties. And that's why I was on the show with you originally, Kenny.
Yes.
With the Tourette syndrome. So
yeah, that was a very interesting show. I really enjoyed it because I learned a lot. I had no freaking idea. And I think we discussed it during the show. Like my knowledge of Tourette's was basically what I saw on TV and movies. And I thought that's what it was. And you really cleared that up for me, which was really good. I mean, I loved it. It was a really good show. And if anyone wants to learn more, go back and look for that show. I don't know what number it was.
Go back and look for that show. And also, I will be doing a talk on February 22nd about Tourette syndrome for the London Skeptics in the Pub. And it will be online. So
cool.
Check that out.
All right. And I mean, just to throw it in there, everybody should know me if you're watching the show. My name is Kenny. I'm the chief investigator for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, where I'm here at CFI, the Center for Inquiry in Buffalo, New York. This is my job, which is an awesome job. Awesome job. I get to do this stuff all day long, except the parts where I have to read a really crappy ghost hunting book, which I'm not going to tell you who it's by because I don't want to give them any credit or attention because it's that bad. I just don't want to do it. So tonight it's an open mic night, and it is also the first time I'm doing a panel discussion edition, which is why everyone is here. So you guys watching, if you have questions about the paranormal or skepticism or how to teach critical thinking. That was my phone. I forgot to turn it down. If you have questions about like how to test some claims and stuff, please do us a favor, put them in the chat room, because if there's no questions, this is going to be a short show and it just won't go anywhere. But I'll start with the simple question that we got. We got one question so far. And that is, what is everyone drinking tonight? So we could start. Who's drinking something? Anyone drinking anything?
I got tonic.
Oh, okay.
No.
What do you got, Adrienne?
This is A&W root beer, 0 sugar. And this is a very fancy bourbon my kids bought me. I have no idea how expensive it is, and I'm not asking.
So someone's two-fisting tonight.
I have an Irish cream. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is an Angry Balls.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Hey.
Angry Balls. That's a Buffalo. You learned that here, right? Yeah.
Angry Orchard cider with Fireball whiskey.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
those are good. Enjoy.
I got Irish cream with some tea this time instead of coffee.
Oh.
Switching it up.
Wow. So that means Tim's going to be dropping some F-bombs later on in the show.
It can happen, especially if you want to start with that paper.
I'll keep them in line. I'm only drinking water tonight. Long week.
Oh,
Understand.
nah, that's all right. It's not for everyone, but I mean that's what Donna drinks all the time when she's
I'm usually right there with you, just not tonight.
I got some iced tea in my special little West Virginia Skeptics Society mug tumbler.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah,
Look at that. Are they like available for purchase?
No, not this one was custom. Actually, a friend of mine made this for me. So, but he would probably make anyone that would want some. He probably would make them for them. So.
I might use it on the show a couple times. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Nudge,
Okay.
nudge.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
Okay. All right. I see that we have some questions starting to come in, so definitely bring more questions in. Boo Productions, Paranormal Toledo. Where can we find that EMF meter paper that was mentioned? Dave?
You can find it at the website of the Society for Scientific Exploration in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. Tim, you can probably pop the link into the chat there.
I will.
Awesome. Yeah, we did. So one of the most popular ghost hunting devices is a EMF meter, electromagnetic field meter, and I've tested and looked into a few of them, both the single axis and the tri-axis ones, and Dave did some research into it. Like he did most of the research about testing these devices in a non-haunted location, and the results that he got were very important for anyone that thinks these devices like detect ghosts and spikes mean ghosts and stuff like that. Might be something, Adrienne, if you want to look into too. It might be something to add to like a Wikipedia page. I don't know if that's something that might be done or not.
It's an original paper.
Yes.
Yes.
Primary sources are not really allowed unless it's for insignificant information. So it has to be somebody who's written about your paper. Then we can put it to Wikipedia. In fact, we're having right now a big discussion on Susan Gerbich's trivia page. That we were visited by a little troll at trivia the other night, somebody in the UFO community. And she's been screaming at Susan on the Facebook page about why can't you use these citations from these peer-reviewed journals? Well, because they're primary sources. You're not allowed to use primary sources. And most people don't recognize that. It has to be a secondary source.
Wow. That's
Did not know that. Kenny, can you write a paper about our paper? Then
Yes.
you can put it in there.
So then if Kenny wrote about it in Skeptical Inquirer, now we can put it onto Wikipedia.
all right. Guys, you take the show over. I got some writing to do. Oh my goodness. Well,
You know,
I don't know. Would that be what was that, Shane?
I was playing around with this little EMF reader I got for like $35, right? Just one of those super cheap ones you find on Amazon. And yeah, it's so fun just to walk around the house and just watch how it goes off. But I found the biggest thing is the cell phones and the Wi-Fi signal.
Right.
And I don't know if you saw my really crappy TikTok video I made on it. but yeah, it's fun. Get yourself one and play with it.
It's interesting with these meters because I mean this is like really the most common, most popular. I think it's been around for a while. I remember seeing them. Well, oh yeah, the K2
It
meter.
so happens.
Exactly
I have several out here in front of me for another little project. So,
But yeah, I saw them like, oh my goodness, like 15 years ago or so. I remember it was on a episode of Ghost Hunters, and then somebody, I'm not going to name them, some psychic medium that isn't, started promoting them and selling them as his own. Like he's coming up with this idea. And I remember him sitting there talking to a bunch of ghost hunters and saying how accurate this meter was. And then we heard the air conditioner in the facility. So this big audience hall, it kicked on. You heard that boom, kind of like deep bass noise. And the meter went, like all the lights went up. I'm like, how accurate can that be if it just pins when you have an air conditioner that's nowhere near it when that goes off. And he didn't have an answer for it, but we kept going. And yeah, I've been playing with those for a long time. The two-way radios make it go off. There was a house, the Hinsdale house, which Melanie, you've been to with me, and Dave's been to as well. I noticed something about the Wi-Fi that they have, and they had a Wi-Fi what is it, transmitter
Router.
in the thank you. I had a brain fart in the living room, and I was walking through the living room, went into the next room, which is the kitchen, and was still picking up the Wi-Fi signal. It was making my EMF meters go off. And it was amazing that this was there. Nobody really knew about it. The ghost hunters come in and they just get this like real quick hit, and they thought, this is something, and they didn't bother to look for the source. So
yeah,
that was a good question.
That's an impressive area to data log. We did that when I was up there with a couple other people for a project, and I think we data logged that room, that area, 2 to 3, 4 hours twice a day for 3 days, and that thing was just all over the place.
Okay.
So I'm sure that's what they're picking up as they walk through that area.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to Tim, the link that you posted only went to Facebook. So
I got on YouTube and posted it to YouTube as well.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted, before we go to the next question, we have one more question, but before we get to that, actually, you know what? No, let's put that up on, because that's kind of like how we got into this. So let's put that up, and we can all take a stab at this. Damn it, Bob says, what drew you to become outspoken? In other words, why did you start a podcast or participate in panels or write papers, etc.? What got you started? So I want to start down at the bottom with Adrienne again. What got you to be outspoken, Giggles?
What got me to be outspoken was having chronic migraines and being very ill, and everybody pushing CBD oil, acupuncture, chiropractic, and vitamins and diet. And I've had migraines all my life. And a team of neurologists. No, I've never tried anything. Never. So I was getting really angry that people it was like blaming me, right? They were trying to be helpful. I know that's what they were trying to do, but it was making me really, really angry because it was basically saying I wasn't doing enough to make myself better. And I was getting really, really angry. And one of my favorite things to do was read science-based medicine. And I read a David Gorski piece that introduced me to Susan Gerbeck. And I thought, wow, editing Wikipedia about misinformation sounded like a way of fighting back against this instead of snipping at my neighbors and my friends, which is what I was doing. And, it wasn't productive. It didn't change their minds. And it just caused a rift in friendships. And that was not a good thing. So that's how I got into it. And I kind of, it just went from there. That's how it started. Is
cool.
Being angry at people for giving me advice that was pseudoscientific, essentially.
Dave, what about you?
Well, all the way back as a kid, always interested in, probably like you, Kenny, Scooby-Doo and Unsolved Mysteries, those type of shows. And then I think it was high school, came across a book, ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, a parapsychologist handbook by Lloyd Auerbach. Kenny knows him, of course. I think you two taught a class together.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, there's actually people that can study this and they go to school for it. Pretty interesting. Then as I went into college and grad school, I think my interest just became a little more scientific to look at it more from a research standpoint. Was in the ghost hunting groups, paranormal investigation groups, but I found the turning point for myself and my wife was we kept doing the same things over and over and over again. It's like, well, we're not learning anything. We're not doing anything. We're just basically showing up. You do the little run through the process for 2 hours and then tell people what you find, and that's about it. And, reflecting back on my scientific training, it's like, it's probably not the best way to be doing this if we're trying to learn things and figure out what might be causing people to have these experiences. And then getting involved with other people and going to a lot of the conferences. And I think part of it was just getting sick of the same bullshit all the time. So I wanted to do a little bit more with people I think kind of thought along the same path, and then was more serious about actually collecting data and analyzing it. And then Tim and another person whose name will not be said.
Shall not be named.
Shall be named. They invited me on their podcast to talk for a while, and then I think Tim got the boot, and then Kenny got the boot, and then, long story short, the three of us got together. And I really think it's, for me, I still keep doing it, one, because I'm just interested in it. I like to talk about it, and I like to get the information out. And Kenny and Tim will tell you that I love to dive into research papers, in the field, outside the field, mainstream science, parapsychology. That's the stuff that really interests me. And I feel like there's so much that the general ghost hunting community has no idea what even's been done in the past. It's crazy. I mean, the Society for Psychical Research has been around for a very long time. And if they would actually read anything they've already done, they might change what they're doing just based on what has been done in the past. So I don't know. I just ask Tim and Kenny. I'll get a little worked up every once in a while. But anyway, that's kind of how I got interested in why I get on shows like this.
It's kind of like the habit of not knowing the history of what you're doing. And just thinking like, oh, when I started getting into it, that's when this whole hobby started. Like so many people started in either the 90s. Well, I started in the 90s, 2000s, or 2010s, something like that. And once they start, they think that's when the hobby started. That's when everyone started paying attention, not knowing that there's decades and decades worth of information. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Melanie, you're like dead center. What's up? How you doing?
Where I should be.
Nice. I like that. Look how you started.
I came at this from science education. I was teaching and realized that with as fascinating as I think biology is, if I had a single semester to teach the average person what they needed to know about how science works, it probably wouldn't look like that course. And so I created something in its place. Nothing new, right? So I begged, borrow, stole, and reappropriated and reiterated a bunch of times, and then kind of thought, because I teach at a community college, which I love, and this is non-science majors, people who don't want to be scientists when they grow up at a community college. My students are normal people, right? I call them the normals. So I thought, well, there's like a whole group of normal people out there who, aren't really swayed one way or the other and just haven't been reached yet. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll try what I've learned, what my students have taught me about what people know and don't know, and how to sell it to them, how to reach them, and see if I could find an audience that was greater than my classroom. And that's when I discovered the skeptic community. Look, I will fully admit, I did not know you all were here, and I am so happy that I found you, because my people have been in a place, and I just didn't even know I had people. So thank you.
You're welcome. Tim, are you having a problem with YouTube?
Yeah, I can chat, but it won't let me.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm trying to post a link from an external source. So.
Okay. I'll take care of it. Yeah. Thank you.
I sent you the private chat for a link.
Shane.
Yo.
What made you outspoken?
What made me
ruffled your feathers?
Well, it all starts with my mother.
Oh boy. Oh, wait a minute. Get our serious hat on here.
Yeah. No, you name it, she was into it. She truly believes she truly believes she could fix your chakras. She got a what is it? It was the weirdest thing. She says she had the power of insight, where she thought it was true. I don't know. It just got crazy.
So she was just really into like metaphysical stuff.
Oh yeah, really into the medical physical stuff.
Okay.
We found weird ways to tie it into her Mormon religion. It just, I can't even explain it. You just name it. She was, and I believed all of this stuff. And then as I got older, I started wait a minute. You know, like this is wait, what? And so I learned about James Randi, and I was like, wow, just a simple test. Like my mom swears up and down that she can see auras, and that test that he did with the sheet and having somebody stand behind the sheet, you know, is like that's all it took, and nobody could pass that, really, like. And so it just blew my mind how simple it was and how easy it was for people to ignore that fact. So I've been into skepticism for a long time, but I always thought someone better would come along. I mean, I'm not the smartest person. I don't have a degree. And so I was just like, I'm not the right person to start a movement. I'm not the right person to be a science communicator. And so I was waited 20 years for someone to come along and start up a group here in Utah. And, then COVID happened, and basically it was a anti-vax nightmare dystopia for me. And I was like, the root of the problem, skepticism. I should start doing something. And so I finally just started a group and did it. Still not the right person, still waiting for somebody better to come along, but you got me so far.
We'll put up with you for a little bit. I mean, we got Daniel, so I mean, we'll take anyone.
I get the love that I feel from you especially. It just warms the cockles of my freaking heart.
Sorry, warms the what?
What the?
She's like the what?
I don't know about
heart?
you, Melanie, but I heard cockles.
The cockles of my heart.
What is that?
I feel like I should not Google that.
Yeah, well,
we're gonna hear some bassy kind of move, like Rob Bass, or we're gonna Barry White. That's what we're gonna hear. Dave's gonna look it up and like,
Oh no!
I
I don't need a computer virus.
You don't need the feds knocking at your door either.
Oh man.
True story. Like before Daniel go, because I don't want to interrupt you, but this just reminds me of in the early days of the internet, I legit was trying to find hand weights, and I went online and I searched dicks, and I forgot the sporting goods part. That was an important part of the search term.
It was in your face, huh?
Wow.
It was a teachable moment.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm sure it was. Won't make that mistake again.
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
I looked up
Did they
cockles.
sort them by weight?
The strangest looking lift weights I've ever seen.
A shake weight came up, right? Shake weight.
And how far are we into this? 29 minutes and it's already gone to hell.
Were the heavier ones like more expensive?
Right.
Ooh, the ones that light up.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Woo. All right, Daniel. I forget the question.
Oh, I don't know either. Cockles. I looked it up. Cockles are the heart. The cockles of the heart are its ventricles, named by some in Latin as cochlea cordis,
Wow.
from cochlea snail, alluding to their shape. So there we go. Cockles.
Okay. So what wow. I can't believe that one phrase got us going. What made you outspoken?
Well, I did a lot of stuff over the years. I used to be a magician and used to do magic shows and whatnot. And at any rate, in modern times, I got away from that because I ended up having a job, and the job took away from the time spent traveling about doing magic shows. And so one day, a friend of mine, and who Tim knows, who was Chris, we went to the TNT area, and that's when I saw the blue heron go flying out into the distance, and that's when I thought, everybody says it's the sandhill crane that's associated with the Mothman. what's the likelihood that it was more, which was more likely, that it was a sandhill crane or was it a blue heron, given that blue herons are the most common wading bird in our state. So I started to do the research and I typed it all up, and lo and behold, I was on the internet one night and I was looking, just perusing through, and I came across Joe Nichols' website and his adventures and the things that he'd done. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I wonder if I could do something like that. And I put the idea away, and because I'd written up the whole thing and I had no intention of actually doing anything with it. And then I saw Ben Radford's website. And so I sent him an email and I said, hey, I wonder if there's any place that I could maybe present this, like at a folklore conference or something like that. And surprisingly, he emailed me back and said, yeah, I'd like to read it. And he said, would you consider wanting to publish it? And I'm like, okay, sure. That would be great. And so one thing led to another, and here I am. I can't hear you.
I'm an idiot. I'm the host of the show, and I forgot I muted my mic.
I thought you muted me. I thought you're like, oh Lord, I'm tired of hearing him talk. I'm
like, geez, shut the frick up. No, you've done some really good things, and I wanted to point it out about you have gotten an official proclamation for West Virginia for Critical Thinking Awareness Day, which is really awesome. Really good job. Really good job. And you're having a lot of involvement from the community. They're
right.
Coming out. You have some things people are celebrating, like college, right? The local college, university. Yeah. Yep.
University. I've got the school systems. The friend of mine, Chris, he talked to the folks at the library where he lives, and it turns out that the lady who's over that library is the head librarian for the state. I don't know what her exact title is. And so she's going to hype it up with the libraries and so on and so forth on our website that Tim graciously and wonderfully does. And he puts up with me saying, Tim, I think this is, he's such a patient person.
Well, I mean, I've been in the car with you. I know how patient people have to be.
Listen, my wife, just the other day, we were driving and she said, you probably should give me Kenny's number so I can tell him that you won't find a parking spot. So
it's a big story. Well, no, it's actually a short story. He circles the parking lot, passes all these open parking spots, just keeps circling because he wants to find the best one closest to the door.
No, closest to the cart return.
Just park the car.
Which is why you yelled at me, right?
I have residual stress from that night.
Yeah.
Tim, what made you outspoken?
I'll make it quick. So my day job, will lead up to my day job. I guess as an umbrella to just give a general idea, but it's working crimes against children. So a long time ago, like in 2000, well, actually it was in the 90s, but I started working with local detectives, and we ended up having the same ideas about the paranormal. Figured, why not? Let's do a group. So we did a group. We're having fun, doing all the ghost hunting stuff. Completely wrong, awful. But we learned as we went. And as we were learning, and years and years, and you start thinking things. You start thinking, well, we're like 4 years into this, and we keep getting the same stuff everywhere we go, no matter what. Blurry picture. Oh, what was that? Shadow. Oh, that's wonderful. Weird noises on an EMF. EVPs. Wonderful. Well, you start branching out and you start learning other things. You start hearing other things about different branches of the paranormal. And I got into thinking and looking at psychics, mediums. And I started noticing that many were claiming that they can help find lost children and pass final messages to lost children and have the passed away children give them messages. And so that interested me because I was like, well, this doesn't sound very good. And then I started noticing it was, they would charge money. And I started learning about grief vampires. And I learned that from another skeptic that does a very particular work on grief vampires. And it's really an area that very much pisses me off. And absolutely, I don't want to get too mad about it, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But
let it flow. Let the dark side flow.
I can't. I will lose it. So yeah, I have a particular dislike and disdain for people that want to prey on people of the parents and loved ones of missing children and deceased children. So I ended up got an invite to do a podcast with someone, and I used that to talk shit as much as I can about those people that did that, and ended up meeting Kenny and Dave through that process. But yeah, so that's it.
Awesome. All right. So I think that's everybody. I mean, outspoken. I've talked about my origin story too many times. I'm sure everyone's bored of it. So, but yeah, I like to call out stuff. But next question was no, that's cool. I was trying to get out of what I was going to say anyway. But is YouTube not available? It is available. I do have it up. So I checked it. I don't know. Maybe they're having a glitch because I did try to post some things and they came up where it wouldn't post to YouTube, but I opened it up and it's working. So if you're there, hi. Should be where you should be seeing me. If not, then doesn't matter. You're not seeing me anyway. So, all right, we got some good questions I think that we can really get into here. How do we get from collected data to evidence? Good question, Dr. Jim. Anybody? This is a free-for-all now. I'm not going to go one by one. Anybody want to jump in and just start answering?
For me, I mean, as the person that doesn't know what the hell he's doing, it's do the test. Just go do the test. Go out and do it. You know what I mean? Like for example, we have tons of collected data about how the Earth is fucking round, right? And yet we still have a group of people. I'm angry about this. You guys saw my post about this recently. Within the last week, Utah just got a flat Earth group, and they got like 15 people in it. And so I write these people. I'm like, hey, let's do the test. Let's see it with your own eyes. Let's go. Let's go utilize the Great Salt Lake like we have, this nice big flattest place on Earth, and let's fucking do it. So, and then there's this argument I was having with this other guy who's like a conspiracy theorist talking about aliens and stuff. And he's like, well, if you look at this pattern here and you look at this pattern here, he's got plenty of evidence or data. He's got plenty of data, not evidence. And so conspiracy theorists are full of data, but the evidence is show me. And that was the point of that whole conversation. Just show me the aliens, show me the bodies, show me
the money.
Exactly. So for me, it's just that step. It's like, yeah, we could talk all day about the data. We can make guesses about what the data means. We can make hypotheses. We could do all of this. But evidence is tangible a little more. You know what I mean?
Anybody else? Jump in.
Sure, I'll jump in. I think data is the raw information. It's facts. It's factual. Mm-hmm. There's no judgment. You don't judge it. And typically what you're doing, I think, is taking the data and you use it to try to prove or disprove something. A hypothesis, answer a question, and then it moves into evidence. So you're using the data to build the case for the evidence of what you're trying to ask or what you're trying to figure out.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just collecting it, you got to know how to analyze it and interpret it. That's going to be the most important part to take you to the next step.
Go ahead, Mel.
No, I just is this question something that is so I'm a little distracted because my husband's in the chat.
I saw that.
Hey,
speaking of weight,
what's up, Black Kraken? I hope that's okay to say. He said I could say it.
I'm here. Okay. Hi, Anthony. Is this question like specific to, is this something that people in like UFO or ghost circles talk about?
No. It's something that they
Dave's-
avoid.
They should.
Dave's laugh that said it all. I mean,
Yeah.
this is something that we talk about. Like we talk
Yeah.
about this a lot. And like-minded people talk about this. But in UFO circles, cryptid circles, and ghost hunting circles, I don't hear this. I don't hear it. It's data is not something that's used. That's not a term
Right.
that I hear hardly ever. It's usually they already assume that what they have is evidence for whatever they're trying to prove exists.
To be more clear about that, it's about pattern seeking. So there'll be like the guy I was arguing with. He was like, "Well, the structure has this one ancient Egyptian symbol on it, therefore they're doing ancient Egyptian rituals in the government," or some weird thing like that. And I'm like, "That's a big jump." Like, I agree that what you have is some data, but like to jump to that conclusion, like, no.
I wouldn't even call that data, though. That would just be an assumption.
Well, a data is like a photo. I have photo.
All right, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
no.
I'm describing it, at least.
I guess because I'm having trouble with these terms, I guess, because I mean, evidence is anything that you think supports something. The question is, how good is that evidence?
Mhm.
Where does the preponderance of that evidence point? So, like, my guess is flat earthers think they have evidence.
Yeah.
Right. So
No.
they think they have data, they think they have evidence, but was that controlled? Are they considering other options? Where does the preponderance of evidence point? And more importantly, when we talk about these like pseudoscience and denial movements, the evidence is just like a front face. It's the shield people put up to protect whatever's under it. And in that case, what I really want to believe is UFOs. So I'm just going to find whatever I need to point at that. And they think that's evidence.
And data.
Yeah.
But there's good evidence. I think anything. I had a chat with an attorney friend of mine not too long ago, and she said that anything that you can put forth like that is evidence, but it's not necessarily good evidence, because your good evidence you have to have a foundation for that. It has to be demonstrable, and it has to be have reasons behind it. And so you can introduce a piece of evidence. I'm looking at it from a legal perspective, and I know that the difference between the scientific perspective and the legal perspective, they're two. One process isn't better than the other, but they both have different goals. The goals of science are to determine the basics of the universe and so on and so forth, whereas the goals of the legal system and evidence within that is to create social structure. But anyway, evidence can be evidence, but it's not good evidence, and it's not all sometimes admissible in court, because it can be proven by the other side to be not good evidence. There can be lack of foundation. It can be disqualifying. There's any number of things that it could be. So I think that there's this confusion about terms and how lay people use the term evidence, as opposed to how we would use evidence, as opposed to how an attorney would use evidence, as opposed to how scientists use evidence. So that's just my thought.
Well, getting a little bit more technical, having a math background, I quite often look at the statistics of the data that
Tim?
lead to evidence. And
Tim
I
loves that. Tim
Yeah.
loves the statistics.
I'm not going to get into it too much, but to give a really simple example, there was a study that showed that a specific chiropractic treatment could cure Tourette syndrome. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't think that can happen. It just doesn't make sense. But let's look at the data. The data is an N of 1. One person in the study. So that's what we have to be careful of. We have collected data. Yes, we have collected data. Now, is that evidence that this particular chiropractic procedure actually cures Tourette syndrome? I think most of us would say that's not enough data. But it is used by chiropractors. It is used by people in pseudoscience to say, there's a study that shows this. So this is what we need to do. And the shame of it is, as we talked about in our show, Tourette syndrome ebbs and flows naturally. So they go for the treatment. All of a sudden, the ticks seem better. It's a cure. It worked. And apparently it was quite long term, but that can happen with Tourette syndrome quite naturally. So I think that's a sort of an example, I guess, of good data versus bad data. And that's an example of bad data.
That's cool. Yeah, there's always been a misunderstanding of the terms. You have, I mean, there's the scientific community that has their terminology, and then you definitely have other communities. And like Leonard just made a good point. The goal of science is to find out how the universe works. The goal of the legal system is usually to convince people that your client is correct. You know, and there's two applications there of how you present evidence, how you interpret the data. So I think when it comes to collecting data, for us, and especially like because Tim and Dave and I have had this conversation a lot where we collect data points. They use data loggers. So like if you're looking for why, or if the temperature in a room changes over time, you put a data logger on it so you can track that like so many times a second over the course of days or weeks or months, and you're collecting all that data to help understand what's going on in that room. Whereas you look at the ghost hunting community, and for the most part, that's not a thing. It's basically you go in there and you're in a room for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and if it suddenly gets cold, it's a ghost. And that's evidence. That's, to them, that is determined to be evidence, not data. And again, data is something I hardly ever hear that. I mean, honestly, I think I can truthfully say that the only time I've ever heard the term data applied to paranormal claims is when I'm talking to these other guys, the people on the screen here. That's it. I don't hear it out there.
Haven't you, like, do you remember you were a ghost hunter like me back in the day, but don't
Shut
you
up.
remember, like, you were, admit
I
it.
know. I was.
We are rehabilitated. But you remember, like, you couldn't wait to get home to go through your evidence.
Yes.
You were already calling it evidence before you even, I did too. So I shouldn't say I meant you globally, but you know, that was the thing to do. You know, you stayed out until 3 o'clock and then you just couldn't wait to comb through the evidence that you collected to find that, you know, never occurred to me back then that it was data and that there was a lot of work still yet to be done, but that meant work and that was no fun. And I wanted to go ghost hunting again. So
I think you're right. That was like a tribal knowledge kind of thing where, I would get done and driving home. That was my thought. I can't wait to go through the evidence. I can't wait to go through I can't wait to go through the data and see what we have. It was the evidence. I already thought we had something.
Yep.
And I didn't understand that step in between. I didn't understand what it meant to collect data. I didn't understand what it meant to interpret that data correctly in a way that would be evidence in support of something I thought was true. So, yeah, go ahead.
In general, with the so pseudoscientific and science denial beliefs both share the motivation underlying for wanting or not wanting to believe, but that's the difference. So when we really want to believe something, our standard of evidence is low. And when we really don't want to believe it, then our standard of evidence is really high. So if you want to believe in ghosts, then it would make sense that your standard, you're not telling yourself, of course, that I'm going to accept crappy evidence because it's what I want to believe. It's like, oh, I have evidence for this. Whereas if it was something you didn't want to believe, you would evaluate it very differently.
Right. That's good. That was a good question. I like that.
You know, one of the things that I in one of the presentations I did recently was when I talked about the idea of if you're going to believe something, at least for me, I want the highest level of evidence, and that in terms of legalities, that's proof beyond a reasonable doubt, or evidence that supports it beyond reasonable doubt. So that's why I always say, people say, well, do you believe in this, or do you think this is true? Well, I don't know, because I haven't seen evidence to support X, whatever X might be, beyond a reasonable doubt. So,
okay, good. All right, let's move on to the next question. Teach it forward. What was your favorite subjects in high school? What was your least favorite subjects in high school?
Easy. Easy.
Lunch
Yep.
was my favorite.
Recess.
Gym class.
Gym
Always
class.
one to try to get out of.
Oh my goodness, I was horrible in high school. I was horrible. Shush!
I don't believe it.
I know it's amazing, but I was a shy little kid that didn't do anything, didn't do homework, I hated class, didn't pay attention. I went to a Catholic school and I failed religion. So, I mean, what does that tell you?
Surprised they didn't burn you at the stake, dude.
Jeez, that was, oh man, that was
failed
not
religion.
good going home.
It's
But
funny.
yeah, I
I was
found-
shy too. I was really shy, but I was tall. I wasn't little. I was a tall, shy kid. Believe it or not.
Huh. I'm trying to imagine either of you as shy. That just doesn't.
I was very shy, dude. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I had like a circle of friends that was like 6 or 7 people that I would talk to, and that was it.
Mhm.
Didn't talk to anyone else. It wasn't until it wasn't until I got my first tattoo, which happened to be 2 little blue dots on my knee, because the kid next to me decided that he wanted to stab me with his pen and literally looked over and went like that into my knee. And I beat the shit out of him in class. And that was it. That was I wasn't shy after that. But that was it, yeah.
Wow.
But
No.
yeah, high school, my favorite class was art, actually. That was my favorite class. I loved painting and I loved drawing, sketching. So my least favorite, math.
Oh, no, can't do that.
Hated math. I am not a numbers guy. Nope. So anyone want to shout out their favorites or least favorites?
No,
I
science.
always liked music.
I mean, I was all about science. I remember
Science was mine.
plate tectonics blew my mind. That was like the thing that got me excited. I was like, what? Ground's not solid? I guess math was my worst, but driver's ed.
Daniel, was that your? So I'm kidding.
Listen, hey, no, I never had driver's ed. All right.
I'm sorry. That's going to be a joke.
I learned to
forever.
drive. I learned to drive on the farm using a tractor.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
explains it.
Okay.
I shouldn't have said that.
I learned to drive on a stick. I grew up in rural Western Iowa. There's nobody there, no stoplights. To this day, I can't parallel park. I will drive around the block until I find a spot where I don't have to parallel park into. Right?
See?
Okay.
Yeah.
I did fail driver's ed.
Oh.
Ooh.
Did you say
That
twice?
was my least favorite.
That's
you say
why
twice?
Anthony drives all the time.
We've now identified 2 people that will not be driving if we all get together.
That was good. How'd you do that? With the balloons. That was cool. Wow, that was neat.
Yeah.
I liked music class though.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
I'll say Canada with like 6 group of friends. I had like 3. Okay.
I had a stick. I didn't even have any friends. I wish I'd had friends.
I can see Daniel like sitting outside on a picnic bench with a stick popped up on the bench next to him, like, "Hey, stick,
Baseball hat on it.
how you doing, stick? What's up? A little stiff today."
I
Oh
think
my
my favorite. my
Anthony's
favorite
still trolling me from the comments.
Good. We understand, Anthony. We understand. All right. Let's take one more question and we'll go to break, and then we'll come back
right.
and we got a few more. We actually got a bunch of questions lined up. So let's see. Ian, what's up, buddy? How much of a role does psychology play in paranormal investigation? For example, we're going on an alleged haunted location, therefore, ... And people are already primed for ghosts.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'll just start off. Yeah, I guess I'm not a psychology person. I'll say that right off the bat. But yeah, I have seen that where, and we touched on it already about going to a location, and as soon as you leave, you're like, oh, I can't wait to go through the evidence. most of the time I see people excited because they're like, we're going on a ghost hunt, we're going on a Bigfoot hunt, we're going to look for UFOs, and I can't wait to get all the evidence. And I see that on social media all the time, like hours or days or weeks before they even go to the location. They are already convinced that they are going to get something. So I think it's a conditioned response. I think they are so used to the low bar quality of what they consider evidence. It's so easy. And again, I'm gonna say it's anomaly hunting. That's what they really do. They're not looking for anything. They're not investigating. They are anomaly hunting. So the ease at which they find anomalies and fail to explain the source of them, I think that plays into the idea that they are always going to get something when they go out. And that thrill is almost becomes an addiction. It almost becomes the next fix, where I'm going to go out this weekend. I'm going to be excited because I'm going to get scared, and it's going to be spooky, but I'm going to have stuff to post on social media and say, look, I got a ghost. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone want to jump in? Oh, Adrienne?
Yeah, just being at the Winchester Mystery House recently, one of the things I noticed regarding the priming and sort of the psychology of it is, and I was surprised at this, I didn't know this would happen, that where they talked about ghosts and spirits and weird things happening were in the unfinished, damaged, creepy, low-lit places in the house. When we went to the beautifully redone, furnished, dimly but beautifully lit areas, there was no talk of ghosts. It was history. So I thought that was very interesting. And I actually asked the question of our guide. I said, so why is it that all the spooky stuff happens here in this part of the house and not in the other part of the house? And he says, I don't know. That's just the way it is.
I think because all the orbs are sucked up by the dustbusters. Sorry. Oh, I hate orbs.
There's actually been a fair amount of work on that, looking at contextual cues in the environment and what people report in certain rooms in a house and the things they report. Like, for example, if you go into a room and it's painted red, people report smelling roses. There's a ghostly smell lingering around. So yeah, definitely. Psychology plays a huge role, and people need to be more aware of it and obviously understand what might be at play in the environment and the human environment interaction as far as how psychology plays a role in these things. I mean, there's whole books on the psychology of paranormal belief. There's entire books on it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to have a part in it.
Jump in.
Yeah, I look, I don't take people on ghost hunts, although that sounds really fun. So I'd love to do it. I'm an educator. And what I noticed is that if I'm trying to teach students about the process of science and how we collect and evaluate evidence, then is that my cat?
Probably my children.
It's not mine.
Oh, sorry. Then they need to understand why we need science to begin with. And that's understanding our psychology. Like, if you don't get that you can be fooled, then you're going to continue to be fooled. Like, you need to realize that about yourself and then notice your own vulnerabilities, right? The kinds of things that you're more likely to fall for. And that's when it's most important to be skeptical. So I don't started a ghost hunt. I have the fortunate, I always joke that my students are captive for 4 months. Like, they have to go with me through the whole process if they want to grade. And so right now we're talking about psychics and mediums, right? We just finished ghosts and UFOs. And before that we did witches, but I'm taking them through a process of recognizing their own thinking biases and their motivations and emotions and all that kind of stuff. When you've already got somebody at a ghost hunt, that has to be really hard though, because you don't have that luxury of all of that background. You just have somebody who's at a ghost hunt who really wants to see a ghost.
Well, and if they see a shadow or something that causes a shadow, they're, instead of them logically going to, oh, wait a minute, a cat maybe walked across something over there that caused a shadow to cast over this direction, they think to themselves, if they're primed, they think to themselves, oh, that was a ghost. Or if they hear if the house settles or something like that, and they hear creaking on the floorboards, instead of thinking, "Oh, that's the house settling and it's creaky floorboards," they're going to think, "Oh, that's ghostly footsteps." So, yeah.
And most seasoned skeptics don't need to hear this, but the last two podcasts that we recorded, the first one's about logical fallacies, and the next one's about biases. So if you need a refresher, that new podcast is coming up. But we're learning it's all about psychology. When I get into debates, when we really start getting into discussions about this, one of the biggest things I notice is that people aren't comfortable with, I don't know. They're not comfortable with the discomfort of not having an answer. and so they're always like, how come you don't have any answers for this? I have all these answers. You don't have any. And I'm like, well, your answers aren't really answers, but, but they don't seem to understand that I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. And I mean, that falls into, you could go way into psychology. This goes into, it starts with the biases, but then it moves into, upbringing. Like, for example, you were born religiously with all the answers in religion, right? Here's the answers to life, universe, and everything, just handed to you on a silver platter. And it just becomes what you're used to. So yeah, I think, psychology, I'm learning more and more, especially like, my wife, she's a counselor, and has everything to do with it.
I think go ahead,
sorry.
Tim.
Well, I love the psychology of the paranormal, and often when we think about different things, the three of us, like how we're going to test something, I typically migrate towards the behavior of the person or the group and why they believe what they do. I love it, and I want to say, like, this question made me remember a show we did on what would we do to make a haunted house.
Right.
And it was focused on, I think probably the funniest thing was to make sure people were going to be scared, or, have an ambulance waiting outside. Don't say anything. Don't, just have them parked out there, and just for in case while you're inside.
Just in case.
It's been 4 months since they had to respond to the house, but we like them here anyway. And the level and the detail and the quality of a waiver, just those little things about, like, the danger that you could be in, but we're not saying that you're going to be in danger, but you're probably going to get hurt, but just in case you're not really, but sign this anyway so you don't sue us. All that hyping up, and Daniel will probably kill me for this, but I can't. Is it the auto mute? I can't think of it. There's a part when when you have a fear response and you have things begin to happen biologically in your body that you don't even think about. Your heart rate becomes higher. Your alertness becomes more aware. You start making more type A, type B errors.
Autonomic.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm already one Yeti deep.
Irish cream
alcohol. Yeah, I'm going to try. This is going to be awful. I was like, but I think even the body functions that you're not even thinking about kick in and begin affecting your experience in your environment.
Right. Priming really has a lot to do with it. I mean, how many times? I don't know how many of us have gone on ghost tours or something like that, haunted houses, but they tell you the stories, and while they're telling you the stories, they're telling you what you should expect to experience, and that's a big thing. And like you just mentioned, Tim, like just having an ambulance outside of a haunted attraction and maybe dropping that little hint, like, oh yeah, we haven't had to use it for 4 months, because we had someone pass out, or they were so scared they freaked out. We don't know what happened. Just those little things can have a major effect. But then when you go full bore and just say, oh, this particular room in there, you might want to not go in there. Like, a good example is my buddy Baggins' museum. There are 4 rooms on the tour that are optional.
Oh, jeez.
And they tell you, like, oh, this is one of the optional rooms. You can opt out of going in there because it's so intense. And they give you that warning beforehand. And you can watch the faces of people. And I've only been there twice. So, and the second time was a group of skeptics, and they were like, whatever, we're all going in. But the first time you could see the people, like their faces changed. They were scared. They were like, oh shit, maybe we should consider not going in here because they're telling us it's going to be intense. So that priming really it's a powerful tool. It really is a powerful tool. And that's why I think I've gotten used to the idea, like, if you tell me something, I listen, but I'm not taking it at face value. I'm listening, but I'm not, I don't know what to say here. I don't know what I'm trying to say. What?
Talk is cheap. Show me.
Yeah, it kind of like that. Like, I know what you're saying, and I'm going to put it in my, the back of my head. I'm going to write it down in my little mental notepad just so I know you said that, but I'm not going to follow what you said. I'm not going to prepare for what you said. I'm just going to go in there and see what happens.
It's like when we went to the hospital, the state hospital.
Yeah.
And we did the historical tour. But even though we did the historical tour, they still told us little nuggets of things here and there. And they would tell us things that were supposed to be sort of scary, like the guy that beat the door from the inside, and he put his knuckles in. You could see the knuckle marks in the door, which we both looked at it and said,
we put our knuckles in, like, those aren't knuckles. Knuckles. You hit this with a hammer. That's what you did. Okay. All right. Good question. We're over our hour break, so I'm going to go to break right now. That gives us about 4 minutes. So we can, do our thing and then come back. So in about 4 minutes and 11 seconds, we'll come back here. We'll take some more questions because we do have some piling up, which is awesome. I love it. So I'm going to go to break right now. I love that music. Makes me rock out. All right.
Before we go to the next one, it was really kind of fun because I don't think anybody else can see all. I have little icons of everybody down at the bottom of the screen that I can see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're still like an administrator.
Yep. Yeah. So when you hit the music to go to break, like I saw like 7 chairs get up and run to the bathroom all at the same time, coming back with new drinks. It was good.
It is nice, yeah. I always have to remember, like, when you help out, it's like, oh shit, Tim's in the show. He can see the camera even when we're on break. I got to make sure I'm like not doing stupid shit. Right here, yeah, like picking my nose or like adjusting my shorts. Not that I have pants on, because
who does?
I know, right?
Yeah.
This is what these meetings are for, not wearing pants.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's we got a couple questions in the queue. So let's see what we got here. And again, I'm not going to go around. It's just if you got a thought, pop in there. What's your favorite aspect of the paranormal community? What topics in the paranormal community interest you the most outside of ghosts? Wow. For me, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I don't know if it's a popular opinion. I don't know if it's, I don't know, but one of the funnest things for me and paranormal groups and people that do it, I think most paranormal investigators are just, they're just almost scientists. Like they just miss a calling. Like they're doing it, but they're not doing it. And I hope I'm going to explain this the best way I can.
How's that coffee?
It's great. I am. Yeah. So they see a problem. They see an unknown. They do research to see what other people are doing to solve this. They unfortunately pick up some bad, and they go try it, and they go out and test it. And I think the basis of what they're doing is science-y, but I think their mindset would be if they could find someone that's a mentor or someone that is more data collection, something more actual science, that I think that they would gravitate towards that. And but that's not saying, I know that there's a large percentage of the population that do it for fun, and I have no problem with that. But I think people that really take it seriously and really go out and ghost hunt and do what they do, I think that they're scientists at heart, whether they know it or not. Now, is it good science? Is it right? Probably not. But I think they are just scientists that probably skipped a class or two too many and missed out.
I think you're right. I think there's an issue where it comes to they want to do science, and many claim that they're doing science, and this is across the board, not just ghost hunters, but a lot of the paranormal themed kind of interest. They think they're doing science because they watch TV shows, the reality shows that are not reality whatsoever, and I think that's where they get they're trying to go down the path of doing research, and then they get sidetracked. There's that little old witch with the candy going, come this way, and you get led off astray, and that's it. You get lost, and
the candy is the easy way.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, I can relate to that because when I was a ghost hunter, I thought the research I was doing was good. I was researching and seeing what other people were doing. The problem was I was relying on other ghost hunters that weren't doing good research. And I took it that if they wrote a book, if they were on TV, like famous, equate it to they know what they're doing. And it wasn't until I had some like really kind of harsh, but in my face, blunt, but professional people tell me, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. And I started looking into it, that I realized, shit, I am doing it wrong. And I need to do better. And then I get to meet more and more people. And then it becomes that roller coaster, or not a roller coaster, but the snowball down the hill, where more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know shit. I really didn't know a lot. So it just sparked that thirst. I want to know more. I want to know more. I want to know more. What am I doing wrong? How can I do it right? So that is what interests me. I like to know why people think the way they do, why they believe it, and what processes they use to get to their own conclusions. So that was me. I took a long road and then did a short road. So there for everyone else.
Most of my knowledge and data is in energy healing, actually. So,
energy.
So I'm already mispronouncing my own name. This isn't going to make it easy.
Drink.
Yeah, so it's I'm signing up for Phenomenon, by the way. They just opened up tickets. It's going to happen this Monday, by the way.
Oh, are you setting up?
Phenomenon, which is a paranormal convention that's happening like in Vernal in Skinwalker Ranch. So let's go with me.
What?
I'm going to get a booth
This weekend?
Not that. No.
The tickets go on sale.
Sale this weekend.
Oh, okay.
It's in September.
September 4th through 7th, this says.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, that.
Who wants to go?
Note to self.
I'm going to get a booth. And I already have some friends set up where we're going to like go camping out away from everybody. So we're not like the skeptics stuck in a hotel with everybody. Yeah. So that's going to be like my first, like, which I'm a little scared for because again, I'm not like too much into paranormal stuff. So like, I don't know a lot about ghost hunting. So I'm going to be like the skeptic coming in being like, hey, I'm skeptical, but I don't know anything. It'll be a fun experience for me. We'll see.
It definitely will be interesting. But yes, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm gonna reach out to you afterwards because I want to know more about this because this is something I would like to attend.
Yeah, like I'm planning. I think it's Monday that they officially open up vendor booths.
Okay,
so that's when I'm gonna like send the money and
and wait and see if they just send you money back and not tell you
exactly what the energy healing conference did. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, did they? Oh, wow.
It'd be a mass vickering.
Tell them, Shane. Yeah, you signed up for a booth at the energy healing conference.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And
Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Are you doing it on purpose?
Yeah, I submitted for it. I sent them $400 and had my whole registration. I was just honest though. I was like, Beehive Skeptics, we're going to try and teach skepticism and science and that kind of stuff. But like, I just checked my bank account a week later and the money came back. And nobody sent me any emails, no calls, no nothing.
Wow.
I sent an email to the head. Her name was Tracy Ward. And never got anything back. I think she blocked me or something. I don't know.
There you go. All right. Anyone else want to comment on this question or no? Okay. Moving on.
Cryptids.
Right.
I'm gonna throw that out. Cryptids. I love cryptids. Cryptids are my favorite.
Oh, there you go. I cryptids are interesting. We've done a couple shows, Tim and Dave and I, on cryptids, Mothman, Bigfoot. It would be an interesting topic. Out of everything, I would really like to see a Bigfoot. Not a cat's butt. Definitely not a cat's butt. No. But a Bigfoot would be good. And again, my ultimate goal is to find an alien with a UFO, and they let me drive. So I want to buzz all the cities and be like, "What's up?"
They're real.
I'm gonna be sitting in the captain chair going, "Engage." All right. Next question, Tim. Thank you, bud. Leonard, what's up, buddy? What do you think is the most important skeptical issue of our time? Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's a big question.
Science education in general, right? Like, that's kind of what started me creating my group. Was like I was looking at the political climate and looking at like my mom. We all mentioned my mom. We know how crazy she is. Well, guess where she's at now? She's super into QAnon, and like balls deep into QAnon. And so she's gotten way into conspiracy theories. According to her, we never landed on the moon, and there's a satanic cabal, blah, 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 blah. And I was looking at that and just realizing how prevalent it's gotten. It's like, what was the number? 30% of all Republicans are now like believing in voter fraud and the QAnon conspiracy. Anyone else saw those numbers? But I was looking at that and I was just like, what's the root issue here? And it was just that, a lack of critical thinking and skepticism, right? So it's like these people they're being fed answers and not being critical about what they're being fed. So
yes,
for me, that's it. But I mean, and if you want to say the most influential, I would say conspiracy theories right now, because like, mainly because of our political climate.
And like Melanie has done, teaching people how to check sources. I love that latest video you did. Because
it's a conspiracy video from
and how to check your sources correctly so you don't get the information you're hoping to get necessarily, but in better information or a counter example of the information you're expecting.
Well, you have to know your own biases again when you get to fact checking something. Like if you already believe it's true, you're not going to check. But then if you do go check, you're just going to use Google to lead you to wherever you want to go anyway, that confirms that you were right all along. So yeah, we have to own up to our own part in this. Like I cannot agree. I'm not saying that critical thinking can solve all of our problems, but I think it's our only chance.
And
it needs to be in the education system. Starting.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You have hit something that just has, oh my gosh. It is coming from me now. It is, the thing that happens in education.
Daniel has awoken.
they say, oh, how important critical thinking is and how we have to teach critical thinking skills. And they'll say, oh, we teach critical thinking as part of, in our state, they're called CCRSs, College and Career Readiness Standards. They teach those in that, and there's processes they're built in. But then when you actually start to look at it, they're sadly absent. There's not enough of just critical thinking skill. There needs to be an entire class just in critical thinking
all the way through.
And it needs
like
to be
math, right.
No, we'll keep the math. We got to keep the math.
Like math, as in math is all the way through. English is all the way through.
Oh yeah. But you couldn't. I mean, that would add logistically. That would add a burden to, you'd have to increase the graduation requirements, and that would and so on and so forth.
Take something else out, and interweave it, right? You can
interweave it, like you can interweave, you can embed courses within other courses, but still, to me, there's for example, here they have a class called Higher Order Thinking Skills. It's HOTS it's what it's called in their state, in the manual, for the course code manual. And I don't know how many people actually teach that, but I've been advocating that we do that. Just simply because it's not there. They think it is, but it's not there. And that's what bothers me. And that's why this Critical Thinking Awareness Day that I've have the little proclamation for beside me that I show every little bit. That is why I'm just such an advocate for it, and every time I turn around, I'm talking about it. I'm sure my poor wife, she's probably sick to death of it. But nevertheless, yes, I'm sorry. It needs to be an education. I wholeheartly agree.
Daniel, I have a question for you, because what I have found is that everybody thinks they're teaching critical thinking.
Yes.
I thought I was teaching critical thinking. Actually, at my college, if you teach a course that is in the science division, it is by definition considered critical thinking.
Right.
And so if you ask educators then what that means to them, that is the answer. Like you're getting a trillion different answers.
Right.
Not necessarily what we mean. So I guess I'm curious if that's something that you've run into and what answers they give when they say they do teach critical thinking?
There's one teacher that I'm aware of that in our system that actually does teach critical thinking. He teaches biases. He teaches how to recognize cognitive biases. He actually has entire lessons, and I've given him your stuff as well, so he can look at that and incorporate that. But he was doing that before I ever knew of you and your stuff. So he and I had these conversations about cognitive biases, and he has students to point out cognitive biases within assignments, and he'll have an assignment up, and he's the only person. He's our civics teacher, and he does that. But he tries to sprinkle it out throughout the year, but he does it like this much, and it's not his fault because he has the other standards that he has to cover. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get to the higher ed, and I've walked in both worlds, so I can speak to higher ed. The folks in higher ed, there are now certain classes that are considered critical thinking classes, just as you said with your science classes. But again, they're not. They're teaching what they think to be critical thinking. It's almost as if, and Adrienne, don't take they think that they're teaching math, and as a result of teaching math, they're also teaching critical thinking
because they teach problem
solving.
Yeah,
yes,
it's not critical thinking.
But it's not critical thinking. So it's so immensely frustrating. And I'll shut up now.
That was good. That was good. I agree all around. I mean, I think, and I agree. Leonard also made another statement later that it needs to be in every level of education.
Yes.
And I think so. I mean, critical thinking is not something I knew about at all until I joined this community, where I started understanding what it meant. But I think that
teaching my ADHD 12-year-old at about just the logical fallacies and basic critical thinking.
Right.
She gets it. She understands. It's like
a kindergartner could understand some of those critical thinking things. Absolutely.
It's not that hard, It's like,
but here's the other thing that I've noticed. And Tim, when we were at the Bigfoot Festival, there were people there that were talking about that. Well, at one point, someone said, "Are there any skeptics in the room?" Raise your hand. I didn't think people literally hissed at you in real life like they do, but we got hissed at, and it was not. Yeah, so we got hissed at one point. But anyway, the one fella said, now, he said, we have to have skeptics. He said, I'm a skeptic. He said, and he goes through this whole great big process of how he uses critical thinking in his research. And, that it's led him to understand that this little creak in the sound in the woods is actually a Bigfoot knocking on it. And so I'm thinking, that's not critical thinking. That's no. You're saying you are, but you're not. These words, this thing that you're saying, I don't think it was this word.
Words that are coming out of your mouth
they do not mean what they think they mean.
Oh man.
But nobody likes to think of themselves as not a critical thinker.
Right. Yep.
Or somebody that believes in pseudoscience.
Or a bad driver.
Science. Like we all think our beliefs are supported by the evidence, or we wouldn't hold them.
Right.
But then that can be a major barrier.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to get over that. That's a hurdle. Like to actually realize that you could be wrong.
Yes.
About the information that you believe and are promoting. And that's something I encountered because in my ghost hunter days, when I started realizing I was wrong, that struggle, that internal struggle was difficult. Like, holy shit. Like, could I be wrong? No, I'm not wrong. I know what I'm talking about. Wait, I am wrong. Oh shit. Now what do I do? And the embarrassment sets in. And at first you want to hide it. You don't want anyone to know that you were wrong. But now it's become something that I embrace. Like when I am wrong, which does happen often. Shut up, Mel. I see you. When I am wrong, I do admit it. I don't erase it. I don't try to hide it. It's like, hey, I put this out. I was wrong. I screwed up. Here's the correct information. Here's the sources you can check. And that makes me better at what I do. And I love it. I think it's a great thing. It's getting over that hump of that embarrassment and shame. Once you get over it, I think it's actually great. It's not so embarrassing now. I mean, there's still embarrassment, but like I said, I embrace it. And
it's almost freeing.
Yeah, because I can be wrong. What'd you say?
I just said yes to this. That's all.
Yeah.
I just agreed with
Yeah. The last paranormal talk I did as a ghost hunter was right at the transition of going from ghost hunting into critical thinking and the such. So I thought it would be a really good idea to change up my my talk for an hour and put up my slides and everything on everything I did wrong for the past 8 years. And I just was like, this is wrong. This is a video of me chasing an orb in a cemetery, which is, now that I think about it, a firefly. Yeah. So that was it. It was like, this is me looking at a blinking light that tells me there's a ghost, but and I never received an invite to come back and talk, but yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. All right. Moving on. What else we got, Tim? Stephanie, hello. As an avid paranormal person, how would you bridge that gap of collecting data and analyzing it for evidence? I understand this would be tough given that people just collect images and EVPs. I rarely see, my mouth doesn't want to say the word rarely.
Yeah. How's your alcohol? I keep a list. I keep a list of words that you can't say.
I don't doubt that at all.
I have.
I am not skeptical of that.
I'm going to
how rarely. Damn it, Tim. I rarely see any other data. I hope that makes sense.
Hold on. Rarely.
Bridge the gap. I hate you, Tim. Bridge the gap of collecting data and analyzing for evidence. How would you bridge the gap? I don't know.
Is that kind of what we talked about a while ago with the bridging with how data becomes evidence?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, you really have to look at the data. Everything you collect is data.
And don't have a thought of that this is where you want to go, right? That this is what we're looking for. Like what
don't have
anomaly hunting. Is that what you call it? Ken?
Yes. Anomaly hunt. Don't have your conclusion before you get started on the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your hypothesis. You can have an idea, but go into it without your conclusion already made.
Well, it's like with the collection of EVPs. Yeah, I think if you collect the EVPs, have 10 people listen to them, but don't give them any context about what you think that's going to say, then write out what each of them says, and then that becomes data. It becomes more interesting data points than just having an EVP.
Yeah, like see what people say. I mean, I did something like that with Mitch Silverstein and Stephanie Bond. We did something where we took a recording. It was from a ghost box, which is just a radio that scans through without muting any of the sound. We took a snippet of that, and we had a question before it. And we sent it out to, I think we sent it out to over 100 people, maybe like 150 people. We had two groups. One was sent the recording with the question. One was sent the recording without the question. And they were asked, like, what do you hear? And the responses were all over the place. There was no agreement whatsoever. And that was in both groups. So even comparing both groups, there was no agreement. But within both groups, there was no agreement. Even with a context, with a question that presented, like, what is your name? Like, there was no agreement on what was heard as a response. So I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really like what Leonard has said too, which is the key is to look for ways that disprove your beliefs. So that's kind of what you were talking about.
Absolutely. Viability.
Yeah, I think The one thing I was going to add to that is I think you even need to take a step further back with people that are involved in the field, and we need to collect quality data and have a standardized method to collect it. Because you tell me that your K2 meter blinked 3 times and you felt something. The fuck am I supposed to do with that? I can't really do much with that. I mean, it just, you need to collect quality data, understand what the equipment does, what it's collecting. I'm a big advocate of data logging, documenting everything, even if it's standard forms that everybody fills out. I think the first thing you need to do is collect quality data before you can start analyzing it and start determining evidence, because crap in equals crap out.
That's good.
Just hearing you all talk about like how these ghost hunts work. Oh wow! Apparently the angry ball.
Wait, Tim, write that word down for her.
Starting a
You
Melanie.
start a new list, Tim.
That's right. Can't pronounce. Jesus, I can't pronounce. What?
I'm trying to say anomaly. Anomaly hunting.
I like how you slowed down to say that word.
Anomaly hunting. So,
Anomaly.
and going out to find evidence. It is. It just seems like a really performative. I don't know how it's still not conscious exercise in confirmation bias. It's just this is what I think is true. So I'm going to set out to prove myself right, which of course is the opposite of how science works.
Right.
I don't set out to prove myself right. I try and prove myself wrong. Right. And if I can't find a way to prove myself wrong, I better figure out, I'm going to paraphrase Feynman here. Like, we better figure out a way to prove ourselves wrong as quickly as possible, because that way we can find progress. And if I don't prove myself wrong, somebody else in the community is going to try to do that. And that's also what's missing in the ghost hunting community, it seems like. Like most pseudoscientific communities, they just exist to confirm each other's biases and not actually promote the kinds of skepticism and of rigor that data would deserve to make its way through an evidence-based community.
Well, and they also establish their own scientific principles. And like, for example, that this affects it will affect the energy field. This energy comes in and does that, but you don't have any real ghosts to be able to be able to make that comparison.
Hey, and how dare you question my beliefs? Okay. It's just
I think you hit on something that's called para-unity, which is just not question.
Don't question.
Yeah, don't question. Your job is, somebody puts out something on the internet that's a ghost, your job is just to say, good catch, bro. Awesome.
Yeah. There is a overlying kind of like unwritten rule of like, hey, we're all in this together. Let's not question each other. Let's just support each other and all be nice. Pretty much a let's not keep score kind of thing, which I think is just bullshit.
That is not how science works.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and this conspiracy theorist I was talking with today, like, remember it?
Yeah.
So my main thing with him, I was like, how do you know? How have you verified this? Tell
Best
me
question.
what you've actually looked at, right? And then I started seeing the pattern. I'm like, you don't have any evidentiary standards. You just you see something, it works, and it's true. And it's like, that's not how life works. That's not how. That's you got to build better standards. And so this is his answer. He says, I really resent you judging my beliefs. And shame on you. You keep living, and by the time you're 50, you will see things entirely different. Yeah.
I like it. Good acting. I like that.
Yeah, the world's full of frauds and fakes, but there's really real ones. And I'm like, well,
That's a common trope. That's a very common. There are some fakes, but there are real ones too, and that's usually coming from people that haven't looked into it. So maybe there are real ghosts, maybe there are real psychics, but the people that are most often using that defense mechanism of, maybe there's some frauds, but not all of them are. haven't actually
That'd
looked
be a
into
powerful question. Like, how do you know? How do you tell the difference?
Yeah.
between the two?
All right, let's move on because we're getting down to 20 minutes or so. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I'm having a thought here that is not new.
I thought I saw smoke.
Yeah, it's like, give it.
It was blotting out Tim above you.
Yeah.
No, this is going to be completely obvious. But for some reason, it's like a major epiphany to me. So what I've been trying to get people to do is understand how the process of science works and how evidence is collected and evaluated as a community. And it is it is an argumentative process of people trying to prove each other wrong so they can get as close to the truth as they can. And I'm trying to get people to understand that while also recognizing what pseudoscience is. But now I'm getting that if you're in the pseudoscientific community, it would make sense to you that not only do your methods work that way, that's how their methods work too.
That's exactly how. Yeah.
Right. So like, of course, they don't think science can be trusted, or of course, the evidence to them is the same as it is over here because the process is the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They truly don't understand how science works. They just were never taught that. And so for them, science is some higher power that tells you how the world works.
Well, but then you also have people that are scientists that have the credentialing.
Chills.
Travis, what's his face? That's contributing to that. They're saying, well, we have a real scientist over here who's saying, yes, we are correct. And that doesn't help matters.
Who's
And
Travis?
the guy off Skinwalker Ranch, and he's been on Ancient Aliens, and
His name is
The
Travis.
short blonde hair guy.
yeah, he's been on Oak Island. He's been on.
He's going to be at Phenomenon.
Travis Taylor.
Oh man, we're coming out. I think we should have just
figure this out.
let's do a road trip and just all of us just show
Oh,
up.
I'll drive.
No.
You have to come up to Canada to pick me up, though.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we'll swing up.
I'd love to see Canada.
Hey, we'll rent another trailer. We'll get you guys right by us.
Yeah, bring a sleeping bag. We'll snuggle. All of us. Oh my goodness. All right, let's try to get through some of these questions because we actually didn't get a bunch. With it being Black History Month, how do you think we can attract more people of color into the skeptical community?
Good question.
This is, I mean,
If I remember correctly, what happened in the comments after that was somebody also bringing in women, and then Anthony bringing something up, and I think there's something happening now in the background, which is
okay.
awesome.
Yeah, target the communities. I'm looking for LGBTQ communities because there's a real big one here in Utah, and so going to Pride, I'll be having a booth there. I'll be really advertising to them. Go to events. Go to But I've always said that the skeptics community is just full of too many old white guys, and we need to fix that. So we need to give more voices to women. We need to give more voices to people of color. We need to absolutely not mansplain to them, like bring them in and be like, hey, have a platform, come learn about this stuff, come, blah, blah, blah.
I've had so maybe this is a good forum to get advice because I have had a struggle with the whole mansplaining thing because I'm often asked, what do you think about this? How can I do this? And when I start explaining, I explain the exact same way I explain to anyone. And then immediately certain people, certain individuals will stop and say, well, stop mansplaining to me. And I don't understand what I'm doing wrong because
I feel like he's mansplaining to us.
I'm literally, I'm literally asked to explain something. And when I do, I get shit for it.
Yeah.
Well,
and I don't understand. And when it goes back the other way,
it just
when I'm spoken down to and condescended to by a female, then I who yells at me often to say I'm mansplaining. I often say, like, well, are you woman-splaining to me? Like, I don't know how this works. I don't understand this.
Sure, that
So,
helps.
It didn't. It didn't. But I mean, you guys know me. Like, I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'll say because it's like, what the fuck you want me to say? I don't understand. You asked me a question, I'm trying to answer it, and I get shit for it. So I don't understand. Anything?
I just
Nope.
take it as a signal that they already knew that, and move on to something else. Right?
I mean, I kind of think it's a trap sometimes, at least in my experience. I'm not saying overall, and I totally agree that there are some a-holes out there that will talk down to you because of the color of your skin, what kind of private parts you have, or like what kind of education you have and stuff like that. I get that. I understand that. I just don't know how to respond to that because I'm stuck. I am that old white guy. So I think I'm in that position where no matter what I say, it's going to be wrong. So I say what I want to say. And I usually get in trouble. So, Melanie, you look like you want to say something.
Nope.
Nope. All right.
All right. Good night,
all right.
folks. It's been a wonderful show. Wonderful meeting you guys.
On that note, let's go to the next question. I mean, did we? I don't know. Anyone has like input on that question? Like, I don't know. That's something that we've struggled with here, like trying to come up with different ways to reach out to different communities, and make it more accepting. So I'm open to ideas.
From my day job, if I am not a member of a culture or a group, and I need information or I need an idea of how to work with that group or invite that group into what I do, because sometimes we need local people that speak a different language and reflect the culture in our communities in case we run into somebody and we don't have an interpreter on hand. What we do is we go to that community or we go to those people and we ask, what can I do for you? Like, what do you need? What can we do? How can we work together? What can I learn from you? And I ask them, and then I'll let them say, and then I go from there.
Okay. Anybody else add to it? No one? Melanie, I'm looking. Unfortunately, you're in the center of the screen, so you are the center of my vision, and I keep seeing you like,
That's because I'm out of chapstick.
Oh, all right. Yeah, nice cover. All right. Next question. Crow of Judas. What's up, buddy? How accurate do you think carbon dating is, and do you see any flaws with that type of testing? I know very little about carbon dating, so
I am woefully the last person to answer this question.
No idea.
Maybe Dave. Maybe Dave
no
has
idea.
read one paper on it.
Nope. Not gonna attempt.
So I looked it up, and I did find. Let me see. Google AI is going to give me this. So there's my disclaimer. Carbon dating is a radioactive decay dating method that is generally accurate to within a few decades or centuries. However, the accuracy decreases as the sample ages, and carbon dating is not usable for samples over or older than 45,000 to 60,000 years. Carbon dating is not usable for samples from after 1945. Oh, so if there was a sample gathered in 1945, it looks like it's not usable.
Yeah, it's actually very common to be confused with radiometric dating.
Okay.
So a lot of people will say, well, the Earth, you can't prove the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and then they start questioning radiocarbon dating or radiometric dating. See, even I confuse it.
Okay.
And so what happened once, and what brought this into question, is Ken Ham once. I'm pretty sure.
I know him.
Sent a rock in and requested it to be carbon dated, and he's like, "What? Can you carbon date this rock?" And the lab's like, what are you talking about? It's a fucking rock. You can't carbon date a rock. There's no carbon in a rock. So they looked at it and they found that the rock was covered in a resin. And so they're like, maybe this is what he's talking about. And apparently there was even an email exchange about it, but they're like, maybe this is what he was talking about. They scrape off the resin and then carbon date the resin that the rock was coated in and come back and say, oh, this rock's, I don't know, 10,000 years old or whatever, however old the resin would have shown up to be. And so then Ham goes around and holds that up and says, they carbon dated this rock to be or maybe it was a fossil, or I don't remember exactly what it was, but completely missing the fact that they carbon dated the resin, informed him of that, and informed him that there's no carbon in fucking rock. and then he just continues even to this day to bring into question carbon dating, not even relevant to age of the Earth.
When it's one of Ken Ham is one of those few items that I'm not going to bother with because I don't think he's worth the time. I've been to the Creationist Museum. I went through it. I laughed until the guard started following us because Donna and I we were going through and looking at the plaques, and I was reading them out loud, which I think was my mistake. And going, no, that's not right. That's wrong. That's not right. Read this. No, that's not right. And then all of a sudden, Donna's like, shut up. Shut up. I'm like, what? It's not right. This is bullshit. No. And I turn around and there's one of the guards. Like, and mind you, armed guards.
Armed? What?
Yes, armed. The guard outside, M16. So not just a little pistol or a little zapper. Yeah. So, I mean, I was scared going in, but then I started reading the bullshit that they had, and that pissed me off and overrode my my fear of the guns until the guard started following us, and the guard stuck with us like probably halfway through the tour. It latched on, and he followed us through the entire thing until we left. So yeah, that was interesting. But I mean, anything that has to do with Ken Ham, I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, and pulling that into question, I mean, I don't know what else would be relevant to that. So it's usually creationists that are pulling up that question. And I mean, for the most part, trust the scientists, the experts in carbon dating.
There's different types of the dating, and that's with the radiocarbon dating. It goes within that certain range, and then there are other methods that do other ranges.
Yeah.
And what they find, at least as my understanding is that there's a triangulation of the data from the various methods, and so if you these methods, there might be an overlap in these methods that the radiocarbon can do, and so they end up triangulating and say, oh yes, this matches the geological column, this matches all these different things, so that it's all, I think, very accurate to the degree that we can measure ages at this point in our existence. But
yeah, I mean, it's
pretty good,
right? But
yeah. All right, cool. Next question. What else we got? Squatch talk. Hey. Thoughts on the Bigfoot phenomena around the panel?
They're called bears.
Bears.
I'm going to go with Dave.
I'm going to just end it with that one. There's been a couple articles published on it now, looking at the overlap of the bear population with reported sightings of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We actually talked about one of the reports, the papers that were recently published, and it's actually my job to reach out to the author, and I'm going to get them on our show so we can talk to them more about it. But yeah, I'm pretty much with Dave. I mean, there's a lot of mistaken bear sightings. There is also a lot of hoaxes out there. There's a lot of hoaxes. Rick Dyer.
If we have one more person tell us bears do not stand up.
Oh my God.
You can go on YouTube and watch tours of bears standing up to a bus.
Have you ever been to a zoo?
Walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do.
on.
They do.
Well, my favorite, I think, is the Skookum butt cast.
Yes.
That
Mhm.
is quite fun. And that was an elk sitting in the mud eating an apple, apparently. But,
Yes.
Skookum Sasquatch butt.
They ignored all the elk tracks all
Mhm.
around the area surrounding it and said, no. They have nothing to do because this is a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot slipped trying to go up the embankment and made this impression of his butt. So it was a butt print.
And according to Ben Radford, I thought Bigfoot had died and there was a casket and everything.
There was. I was at the funeral. It was very sad. Very, very sad indeed.
At least it made it to the cover of Skeptical Inquirer.
Yeah. I mean, we like to acknowledge even our enemies. All right, moving on. Good. We're going to blast through some of these. Brian. Oh, wait. Where'd it go?
Oh, sorry. He was.
Okay. It lives in the last
information.
Bears do indeed stand up. Yes. Thank you, Brian. That's good. Teach it forward. At what point in a discussion would you discontinue the conversation if someone disagrees with your point of view? In other words, what would be the tipping point?
Mhm.
You can disagree all you want, but when it becomes a personal attack or it's tending to start getting hostile, that's it. Cut it off, walk away.
Yeah.
I'm okay with dealing with hostile. You can call me an asshole all you want. I'm used to it. But for me, it's when it starts getting circular. Like when I'm making the same points over and over and over again, I hate repeating myself. And it's finally just, okay, this is the 10th time I told you. If you're going to ask the same question again, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, if I'm not getting a feeling of reciprocity, oh my God,
What is that word?
reciprocity. If we're not exchanging ideas and listening to each other, and almost what he said, if it feels sick, oh God, I'm just getting too. Thank you.
Choose your words wisely.
Oh, are you writing my list down? Or are you keeping?
I am.
Tim, you don't have to
Pen
worry
in my
about it.
hand.
Tim doesn't
God.
walk away from people. People walk away from him. John
Thank
Zappa.
you. Yeah, that's why I'm Kenny's bodyguard. 100% success
Yeah,
rate.
that's fine.
Useless body.
Until I get into a fight.
Well, it's because I wasn't there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if I feel like
Don't go to bed at 9 o'clock.
if we're not like at least exchanging ideas and listening to each other, at some point, it's I'm like, thanks for the conversation. It was very, very nice to meet you. Good luck. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah. I will keep going. I'll speak to just about anyone until it becomes moving the goalposts constantly. Like if we're talking about something, you say, well, what do you think about this? How do you prove this? How do you debunk this? And you almost get that sense of like, well, explain this one, Mr. Skeptic. And then when we do talk about it, and I do offer an explanation, instead of acknowledging that particular point was discussed and like we're done, we did solve that one, we did explain that one, it's pick it up, move back a few steps and say, oh, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And as we continue that conversation, I usually give 3 strikes. And by the third time, I politely say, look, we're not going anywhere. Like, I don't think you're really listening. You're just trying to put out the next thing to try to stump me. We're having a conversation. You're not participating. We're going to be done. And have a nice day. Goodbye. So that's it for me. Anyone else?
If someone's delusional, and I mean truly delusional, I don't mean like just your typical conspiracy theory person. I've encountered some people who are delusional. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. And
Right.
So it's when I see that those people, and I don't, being a therapist and a past formerly a therapist and a counselor now, I don't like to throw around the term that some people that are mentally ill engage me with these conversations. But yeah, I have had that happen, and I have to just politely disengage from it.
Right.
So.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean,
Mm.
if you don't see the conversation going anywhere, if you're not seeing any kind of progression,
Right.
then don't waste your time. Be polite, be professional, because you always want to make that clear to everyone else. Because one of the things I also discuss is that if you're at a convention or some kind of event, you are not the only one listening to that conversation. Like, you and that person are talking back and forth. You're taking turns. Well, you're supposed to take turns. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, but there are always going to be people around you listening. So you definitely want to be the polite professional one and just bow out gracefully and just say, look, we're not going anywhere. So I'm going to save us both the time and trouble. And I'm going to step away and go somewhere else that's fun, and not be here. So as long as you do that, I think it does present that image of like, hey, I'm not being a dick. I'm not being that token skeptic that's just mean all the time. I'm being professional, but we're not making any progress. So there's no use in going further. Cool. All right. Anything else?
All right.
Any comments? No? Good.
All right, I was slacking. I was responding to a comment.
Next question. What do we got here? Tom. Hey, Tom. In regards to belief in paranormal, where do you feel the line is between harmless fun and actual harm?
Good question.
That's good. Anyone want to jump in?
I mean, call me a purist, but harmless fun is harmful, especially to people, especially to the mentally ill. Like, I had the story that I think I told last time, where we went to a Ouija board, or not a Ouija board, but a paranormal question and answers group. And there was one guy who was there who was just obviously delusional. I mean, this person must have had schizophrenia or some kind of actual diagnosable problem. And he was there talking about how he talks to demons, and how he how just talking about all his experiences about talking to ghosts, talking to demons, what they meant, and how all this, and everyone else who was there just to have fun was feeding into that. And he's getting more and more validated in his delusions, just because, and while everyone else is having fun. And almost every time I go to one of those events, I can almost point to that person. That person needs help. And when you have a bunch of other people in the room who are just validating them instead of, seeing that there's a problem, that's all you're doing. You're just uplifting these people and helping hide their delusions in something that you think is possibly real.
I think for me, it's the harmless fun is usually when just people want to get together for a night and just scare the shit out of themselves. Like almost like watching a horror movie. They just sign up for a ghost hunt. They go out, they get, a couple jump scares, and they're entertained. They have a little bit of entertainment. And I also think there might be some not harmless fun, but I would classify it different as when someone comes to me and says, hey, like my mother passed away recently, and I had an idea. Like, I woke up one night and I just felt like she was there with me. And I saw like maybe a dark form in it, and I thought it was her, and it gave me comfort and this and that. What do you think of that? Like, with that kind of experience, I don't really touch it. It's like, well, if that's your personal thing, if it really helps you, like if it comforts you, it brings you a little bit of ease, knowing that maybe everything's okay and you're fine, then I have no problem with it. There's no reason for me to comment. It's different when you start taking that story and going out and preaching that it's absolute truth, and this is pure evidence, and this is the data and the evidence. Well, nobody uses data. This is the evidence for the afterlife, and this is real, and this is absolutely true. Then I might comment on it. But if you're going to keep it personal and you just want to keep it that way, that's cool. I don't see that as anything that's going to really influence anyone, except for that one sole person. the line is drawn when you start going out there and preaching it to people, putting it online, putting it out in public. And when I say line is drawn, I don't mean it's like, hey, you know, gloves are off, let's attack. You know, that's not what I mean. It's when I mean you put it out there, it's out there for criticism. We can look at it. We can comment on it. We can be professional about it. And we've done that a lot. Like Tim and Dave and I have talked about various experiences and people's stories during our show. But we talk about it just from a let's critique it kind of way. Not making fun of them, not putting them down or anything like that. But when it actually comes out, the harm comes in when you start trying to deliberately influence people and charge them money and for things that you really can't do, for selling them things that really don't work, like ghost hunting gadgets. You know, when you start selling those for a couple $100 each, and they really don't do that.
Or a psychic that goes into the house to clear the curses.
Clear the curse, or clear demons out of your house. And you're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars for this. Or the person that says, I can communicate with your dead loved ones as long as you bring me $200 every week on Thursday at 2:00. You know, like there's a problem there. There's something not right there. And that's the harm. And when it comes to that, not just the financial, but this is also something that Tim and Dave and I have delved into, when belief becomes dangerous and life-threatening. We did a show once on exorcisms and talking about families that took it into their own hands to exorcise family members, which led to injury and or death, especially of a child, because they thought the child was possessed. So, like, for instance, one father put a pillow over his own kid's head and killed them because they thought they were possessed. So is there harm? Fuck yeah, there's harm. And that's the kind of thing that like really gets to me and that I try to educate people for. So I'm rambling. Anyone else?
I wrote an article about, I forget what I titled it, but something to the effect of the dark side of cryptid fairs and festivals.
Ah, yes.
And they're fun. I mean, you go to them and it's a lot of fun to go there and have the hot dog and the pulled pork sandwiches and listen to the music and you know, whatnot, and go to listen to some of the stories that you hear people telling. But then they have the experts that come in, and the experts come in and they start espousing all this stuff as if it were fact. And so that reinforces the belief that their methods, that they're reinforcing the pseudoscience, and B, people are coming there more to seek confirmation of their beliefs than they are to find the truth. And that to me is a problem. I'm torn because I like the fairs and festivals, and I like to go hang out and do that stuff and see what the cool new tracks are that they have and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's reinforcing this notion that these things are real, and there's no evidence to support that. So I'm torn between the two.
Fair enough. Anyone else? No? Good. All right. We'll move on to the next question. Awesome. I love this. Put the cat down, Melanie.
Yeah. And apparently Dimitri is the star of the show, according to Kat.
Jeff.
Is Melanie muted, I think?
To the panel, who has fallen asleep reviewing long sessions of investigations? Oh, so for those of us who have been ghost hunters, yes. I've been out. I mean, sometimes our ghost hunts wouldn't start till like 8:00 at night. And they would go to like 1 or 2 in the morning. And when there's nothing going on and it's quiet, yeah, like a little after midnight, you're sitting there in a chair and you're like, oh, I'm in my jacket and I'm in a comfy chair and I'm kind of like nodding off, But that's when you're like, oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? There was something there. Dude, I swear something just touched me on the head. So yeah, I've been there plenty of times. I still, when I go along on ghost hunts, when I tag along with teams, I see people nodding off, and it's something where I've gotten in the habit of saying, hey, like tapping on the shoulder, waking them up, and saying, maybe you should take yourself out of this. Go to like whatever, like little headquarters or base of operations, and just go to sleep. Because you're not staying awake. You're obviously tired. You're going to start hearing things and seeing things. So you might as well take yourself out of the equation. But it never happens. It never happens. They want to stay in and they're like, oh no, I'm fine. So anyone else? No? Yeah. Okay. Moving on. We're almost done. Almost done, people. For those that are staying up way past their bedtime. Melanie. Dr. Jim, 7 equally experienced pilots report a UFO. There is no data to be collected. Can such anecdotal stories add up to overcome the lack of data? So are all 7 pilots on the same plane?
Oh, they're talking about the UFO. What were they called? The Congress thing?
UFO? Oh, the congressional hearing.
Congressional hearing. That's the word I was looking for. They're talking about
time. Right? Basically, big waste of time.
Yeah, just no. Anecdotal stories never equal valid evidence, especially on their own. Just no.
I always find the story to be the starting point.
Yeah.
Like if you have a story, you tell me, let's look. Where did it begin? Let's go to the scene of the crime. Let's find out. Let's work from there and go from there. I find like a lot of stories coming together. Maybe it's data, but is it evidence? I don't think so, because we have to try to weed through or comb through what is mistaken identity, what are people being sincere but made mistakes, what are deliberate hoaxes. There's a lot of issues, I think, when it comes to eyewitness testimony, and eyewitness testimony is not the best. And I mean, we definitely have information on that, how it's just not so accurate. It's not anywhere near as accurate as we think. But in this case, like, I don't know if there's a specific case that we're talking about here.
I think you asked a good question, though. Is it 7 pilots on the same plane? Is it 7 pilots in different planes at the same time that didn't talk to each other and they reported separately? How were they interviewed after that? And what would it be evidence of? Maybe they all did see the same thing, but what is it? Doesn't mean it's a UFO or an alien. It just means they saw something, and they all. It's more interesting if all 7, if you could do it perfectly, they didn't talk to each other, they all observed it, but say same time, different angles, didn't talk, got them down, got them interviewed, and they all said the same thing. That's a little more interesting than just one guy saying, I saw something. But you're never going to control for that, because if they're pilots, they're talking to each other. So I think it really depends.
And it's evidence, but it's not necessarily good evidence. I mean, that's
yeah. I mean, you definitely want to look for radar hits and everything else. I mean, if 7 pilots, I find it hard to believe there's something up there with 7 pilots.
I actually fully disagree that it's even evidence, right? Like, we shouldn't even be using this as admissible evidence in court. Just simply no. It's like Kenny said, it's a starting point, something where you can figure out perhaps, for example, where we can place better cameras on our aircraft so we can see this stuff better, or something like that. But to take only anecdotal accounts and turn that into therefore aliens, fuck no.
No. But I think, and again, I'm looking at it from a legalistic perspective. So in terms of, if it were evidence, it would be considered evidence that let's say the defense could enter into evidence, but then it would be then torn apart by the opposing party. And so then it would be
know by the satanic panic that it shouldn't be admissible as evidence, and that needs to be fixed in our legal system. So
Well, just by default, when you say 7 pilots, first of all, 7 pilots, yeah, they're pilots, but when it comes to the idea, and I'm going to inject this, the idea of trained observers, that's not a thing. I mean, you can be trained to identify certain things, but to observe, you still are restricted by the limitations of sight. And if by definition a UFO is unidentified, therefore all 7 pilots saw something they could not identify. And why? That doesn't mean that actually all 7 pilots saw the same thing. I mean, that's an important point. If they can't identify it, we don't know that all 7 were seeing the same thing. They could have been seeing different things: a star, a different plane, a balloon, a Mylar balloon, which is like notoriously mistaken for UFOs anymore. So there's other things that we have to consider. So if it's based on anecdotal evidence alone or data alone, then that's not evidence of like a spacecraft. It is only evidence that 7 people saw something they could not identify. I think that's as far as I can go with that.
Didn't Brian Dunning he did an article recently on that? I'm fairly certain I posted
the UFO movie they don't want you to see.
Yeah, he did a movie.
Yeah, but no, he did an article too recently. I think
about trained observers.
Yeah, about trained observers. Yeah,
he talked about that. That was pretty good. But yeah, that's always been a thorn in my side about trained observers. And like, I mean, there's too many stories about like state troopers that went hunting and shot a person because they thought it was an elk or something like that.
Really investigate satanic panic, because like that was enough for me to be like,
right,
oh my God, like this is what this is capable of, right? And this is what believing observers is capable of. It's just learn about false memories and about how unreliable. It's ridiculous.
All right, 2 more questions to go. We're almost done.
All right.
I appreciate everyone hanging out. All right, what do we got, Tim?
He's young in Canada. Western Canada.
Good question.
Jade Kitten. If you disregard all meaning, anomaly would be a very pretty name. Anomaly. Hey, Anomaly. What's up? What's up, Anomaly?
Oh my God.
That's Anomaly, dude.
my wife's middle name is Amelie. Her first name's Anne. Anne Amelie.
Oh, but all right. Nice dad joke. All right. Last question for the night. Ian, who on the panel wants to believe in ghosts, UFOs, weirdness, etc.? Kind of like Fox Mulder's famous pollster.
I'm hoping the next one's a ghost. Isn't that your T-shirt, Melanie?
Yeah. The Kenny.
That's the Kenny. I hope it's a ghost this time.
And I was so mad at myself for forgetting to bring that T-shirt to go to the Winchester Mystery House. I was kicking myself. What a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
You had conversations.
I mean, this is something that we've discussed a lot. I've discussed it on this show. Mm-hmm. Tim and Dave and I have discussed it on the Three Tortured Souls show. And I know I've had conversations with most of the people here. I mean, I would love to have that or be part of that discovery of life after death, of an alien race visiting the planet, of Daryl being real. Yes, I mean Bigfoot. Just that would be phenomenal. That would be part of it. I mean, especially like life after death and life on other planets visiting here. That's paradigm shifting. That's shifting everything that we our lives. I think that would be cool to be part of it. However, my investigative nature, my skepticism is like, we want to make sure. Yeah. We want to make sure. I'm not the type of person that's just going to take something and run with it. and tell the world I have proof. I want to make sure, like over and over and over again, that what we would present would be quality, high quality. And I mean, most of the stuff doesn't get past just my investigation. And then when I don't know what it is, I do something. This is crazy now. This is crazy. Hear me out. When I don't know what it is, I consult other people. I know. Like, what the fuck is that about? I go to other people that actually know a lot more than I do in various topics and say, hey, you studied this. What do you think of this?
Mhm.
And I get their opinions.
And we should clarify too, because I think what Leonard is saying there is a really good point, that we don't want to really believe in ghosts. We want them to be real.
We want them to be.
Yeah.
real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a good clarification.
I
I don't-
actually like Bigfoot to be real. I mean, I think a population of hominins running wild in the woods someplace, that would be awesome.
It'd be very cool.
Cool.
I think as the only one that didn't raise my hand, I should probably.
Outcast.
I've actually learned to like the lack of fear that comes with being a skeptic. I mean, the world of ghosts and UFOs and cryptids that are out to get you is a scary world, and I learned that as I became more skeptical and as my thinking began to start changing, I started not being scared of the dark. I started not jumping around the corner. I started not assuming the worst with any unknown thing that came to me.
Wait, did you literally like jump around corners?
Well, you see something out of the corner of your eye, and the first thought you have when you're a believer is that's a ghost, right?
Okay.
But the first
I can
thought
see
you
you
have
like
as a skeptic is I just saw something weird, or
looking around corners.
ran past or something like that.
Okay.
And so I've learned that I'm a lot less fearful as I am now, as my current beliefs are. Even like curses, like for example, when I was doing the podcast and I was challenging Arcadia Darkwood to curse me, even my wife was like, don't curse me. Yeah. But like, I have no fear anymore, and I'm learning that there's a certain power to that, and I don't think I want to give that up. Maybe.
Right. I mean, there's no fear from me. Like when I go to haunted locations, there's no fear. When I go investigate a potential UFO landing site, there's no fear. When I go to a place where Bigfoot has been sighted by tons of people, there's no fear. I have no fear of it. There's more hope. Like there's a little bit of hope in me. Like would like to see it. That would be so cool. That would be really cool experience. But there's no fear. And
you like start believing in ghosts, then you got to start believing in demon possession. You got to start believing. There's a lot of like baggage that comes with it, right?
I will disagree a little bit. There is overlap, but it's not always the case.
Yeah,
because some ghost hunters don't believe in demons. Some people believe that all ghosts are demons, and there's like ghosts aren't a thing. It's just they're all demons.
Yeah,
because once you die, you're not allowed to come back. So there's different thoughts. There's different schools of thought, and it's interesting. That's interesting in itself to talk to people and see what they believe and why they believe it, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I think we're done. Even if they're real. All right. Okay. That's cynicism. Yeah. All right. So with that, we're done the questions. Thank you to my panel, my discussion panel here. Thank you, everyone. Tim, Daniel, Shane, Melanie, Dave, and Adrienne. I mean, thank you for coming out and spending your Friday night with me, hanging out, answering questions, discussing things, and figuring things out. I think I had fun. Did you guys have fun?
Yeah. Great.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So with that, everyone, thank you for hanging out with us for a Friday night. Nobody go anywhere yet. like you guys, don't go anywhere yet. But for everyone else, have a great weekend.
Cheers.
Be safe, and remember,
Good night, everyone.
never stop learning. See ya.